Chris Graham here for Trailblazer RV. We're in the shop at Trailblazer and we're going to take you through a new RV orientation on a 2018 KZ Escape Mini 181 KS. We'll start right here at the front of the trailer where you've got a power tongue jack with an on-off switch. This is not to turn the jack on and off, but the hitch light, and a simple extend and retract button there. You can manually operate the jack if you ever need to by removing this rubber cap and using your stabilizer jack crank handle to manually crank the jack. You've got a single 20-pound propane cylinder here. This is full right now. And this tank will work with the propane bottle exchanges. So when you open a propane bottle, always recommend that you open it slowly and all the way to keep from tripping the excess flow valve and inhibiting the flow of propane. So open it slowly and all the way. Behind that is your 12-volt battery. So the battery has two leads going to it, a red positive and a black negative. It's a flooded wet cell battery, so it does require some maintenance. We recommend once a year popping these two caps off to expose the 6 cells beneath them. Check the fluid level in those cells. If any of them seem a little bit low, you can top them up with distilled water. Especially if you see metal plates sticking through the liquid, you'll want to top it up with some distilled water and put a good charge on the battery. We also recommend removing the battery for winter storage. Take the battery off the RV, store it indoors, somewhere where it's not going to freeze, and ideally, if possible, put a trickle charge on the battery once or twice over the course of the off season. Around the side of the trailer, you've got your pass-through front storage. With the trailer, you have two keys, a purple Global Link key. This does both your door latch, deadbolt, and all of your baggage doors. And then you have a small black key here for your outside shower, which we'll get to in a minute. Inside your front storage compartment is where you'll find your power cord. It's a 30 amp power cord. And many RV sites that you visit will have 30 amp power available. We also include the 15 amp park adapter to break this down to a normal 15 amp household style power outlet. This is where you'll access the back of your hot water tank and your water pump for winterizing. On the back of this hot water tank is a set of valves to bypass the hot water tank for winter use. And on the water pump, you can disconnect the suction side of that water pump and hook up a siphon hose to pump antifreeze through the water lines. And we'll take you through the winterizing procedure in another video. Here is where you'll access your hot water tank. You can remove the access panel to access the back of the hot water tank. There's two black reset buttons in here. If you ever overheat the water tank by starting it up with no water in it, you may have to come out and press these two black reset buttons before the tank will start up again. There's also a black rocker switch down here in the bottom corner of the tank. This is to operate the tank on 110 volt electricity. If you're staying at a site that has power, you may want to run the tank on electricity. You'll have to turn that to the on position. This is also where you'll drain the water from the hot water tank in the winter by pulling this plug out of the bottom. On the end of that plug is a rod about that long. It's your anode rod. The function of the anode rod is to corrode over time to help preserve the inside lining of the tank. So the water corrodes the rod rather than the lining of the tank. Before you pull this out, make sure to bleed the pressure off of the system using the pressure relief valve. The tank sits at about 40 psi normally, so you won't want to pull this out before bleeding off the pressure. Right above that is where you'll fill your freshwater holding tank. So this is just a gravity fill right into the holding tank. You can do that with a normal garden hose, or what we recommend is using one of those white, non-toxic, drinking water specific hoses. Here at your running gear, your tires are inflated to 50 PSI. It's stamped on the side of the trailer, 50 PSI cold, and we do recommend that you run them right at 50 PSI. Also, your lug nuts are torqued to 100 foot-pounds. We do recommend periodic retorquing of your wheel nuts. Always retorque your wheel nuts in a star pattern whenever you retorque wheel nuts. You can pop off the center of this center cap to access a grease zerk for your Easy Lube axles. You can use a grease gun to grease your inner and outer wheel bearings. Now, the Easy Lube axles don't eliminate the need to repack wheel bearings, they just prolong the intervals. So instead of repacking your wheel bearings every year, maybe you repack your wheel bearings every 2 or 3 years, as long as you're utilizing your Easy Lube axles. Here at the back of the trailer is where you'll dump your holding tanks. So we supply a 20-foot medium heavy-duty sewer hose. It's stored inside the rear bumper right now. And you hook the sewer hose onto here, other end goes into the ground, and then you've got 2 valves, a larger black valve and a smaller gray valve. Always dump the black valve first, let the contents of the black holding tank drain, close this valve, dump the gray valve, let the contents of the gray tank drain and flush out the sewage from the hose, close this valve, then you can remove your sewer hose and store it back in the bumper. Right here is where your 30 amp power cord attaches. And right here, you have 2 water connections. Don't confuse these two. They've got stickers on them now, but at some point those stickers will fall off. So it might not be a bad idea to permanently mark these 2 water connections. The one on the right is your city water hookup. So if you're staying at a site that has water hookups, you can hook your hose directly to that and pressurize your RV from the source. If you are hooking up to the city water connection, we recommend using a water pressure regulator to maintain proper operating pressure of your water lines and not over pressurize the system. And the one next to that is your sewer tank flush system. So when you're dumping your black holding tank, you can hook a hose up to here, preferably a different hose than what you use for your city water connection, and you can spray out the inside of that tank. So it'll spray off the walls of the tank and the monitor probes and just kind of keep your monitor panel reading accurately. Your stabilizer jacks are on all 4 corners of the trailer. Now, once you're parked in place and relatively level, you want to crank these down to be snug with the ground, but don't actually lift the RV with these. They're just for stability. So just get them nice and snug with the ground. And right here is your outside shower. Pretty simple. It's got hot and cold water taps. Extends to about this high. And don't forget to winterize this when you're putting your RV away for the winter. It's commonly forgotten about in the winterizing process, and we replace a lot of those in the spring. Here at the back of the RV is where you'll find your spare tire. It's important to note that the trailer doesn't come with a jack or a wheel wrench, so it's not a bad idea to make sure that you have a wrench along with you that fits the lug nuts for the trailer, just in case you have to change a tire on the fly. Around the camping side, you have a TV bracket here. This works with the TV inside the trailer, so it can sit inside or it can slide out of that bracket and into this bracket. And you have also a solar charging port here. So you can pick up a solar panel that plugs into there and charges your RV battery. The awning is an electric height adjustable awning controlled from just inside the door. So just inside the door is a switch that says awning in out. Press and hold the out button to extend the awning. The awning will extend a full 8 feet, but you don't have to extend it the entire 8 feet. If you've got a tree in the way or another RV, you can stop it at any point. once you've extended the awning, it's height adjustable, and so you can pull down on this lower arm to lower one side of the awning. Both arms are adjustable, but we recommend leaving one side lower than the other so that you can control where the rainwater drains off. Before you bring the awning back in, put both arms up to the full height position. That way you'll ensure that the canvas rolls up evenly on the roller tube. Follow me inside the trailer and we'll cover a few more things. So right around the corner is where you'll find your stereo system. So you've got two stereo zones on this trailer. You've got inside speakers and outside speakers, or both. We'll leave it set to inside for now, and that's a good default position so that you don't accidentally turn on your stereo and crank up your outside speakers for the rest of the campground to hear. It's an AM, FM, Bluetooth, USB, HDMI, and auxiliary stereo. And if you have a device with NFC near field communication quick touch, you can sync it easily that way, or you can just use the Bluetooth menu to sync it with your other Bluetooth devices. Right here at the back of the trailer next to the door is where you'll find your main interior lighting switch, and also a switch for an awning light just beneath the canvas of the awning. This is where the awning switch was to run the awning in and out, and right next to that is the slide out room switch to run the slide in and out. So if we press and hold the out button, the slide will move out. This is an LCI Schwintek style slide. So it drives from all four corners and self-adjusts. If you ever find that your slide out is not coming in perfectly straight or not going out perfectly straight, all you should need to do is bring it all the way in until both motors stop, and then all the way out again until both motors stop, and it will self-adjust that way. Right here on the wall is where you'll find your thermostat. This controls the heating system for the RV. So slide the slider up until you hear a click. That's ambient temperature. And then choose a temperature that you're comfortable at. The fan comes on immediately, but it's going to be a few seconds before we hear the burner actually light up. And there we go. So now, if we left that for a few seconds, we would have warm air blowing directly from the furnace itself. Once it comes up to temperature, or we turn it off, exactly the same thing happens, only in reverse. The burner goes out immediately, but the fan's going to continue to run for 30 seconds up to a minute just to go through its cycle. Important with this style of thermostat, when you slide the slider all the way over to the off position, make sure you hear an audible click there. That way you know that when you put the RV into storage, if it's getting cold overnight, the furnace isn't going to be kicking on and depleting your battery and propane systems. Down here by the floor is where you'll find your power converter. So this is the power center for the entire trailer. You can see this is where you'll find your 110 volt breakers and all of your 12 volt fuses. You've got primarily 15 amp fuses here, but you've also got a couple of 40 amp fuses. We recommend having some spare fuses along. It's not an uncommon thing in an RV to blow a fuse. So if you've got a couple of spare 15 amp and 40 amp fuses, just in case you need to change one out at a campsite sometime. Another thing with this power converter, it does make a little bit of a humming or a buzzing sound sometimes when it's operating under load. It's perfectly normal. It's just the converter's cooling system. Here in the bathroom is where we'll find the monitor panel. So you can see that the battery right now is good, G for good. The fresh tank is completely empty, black tank completely empty as well, and gray tank completely empty. This is also where you'll find the switch to activate your water pump and activate your hot water tank on both gas and electricity. Remember, if you're using the hot water tank on electricity, you may need to turn on the black rocker switch on the outside of the tank as well. Both of these switches need to be in the on position to use the tank on electricity. If you're using the tank on propane, you can light the burner using this switch. The red DSI fault light comes on, showing that the burner is not burning right now. But just like the furnace, if we give that a second or two, we should hear that burner light up and that light will go out. Just like so. So now in 15 or 20 minutes, we would have hot water from our hot water tank. If for any reason that light didn't go out, or if it went out only briefly and then came back on, it means the tank did not light. The first thing to check is your propane bottle. Make sure you haven't run out of propane. The second thing you might check are those two black reset buttons on the outside of the hot water tank. Just go and press those two buttons. Right next to that is your GFI power outlet. Just like the power outlets in the bathroom in your home with a test and reset button on them. The only difference is in an RV, this is wired in series with the rest of your power outlets as well. So if you're ever plugged into power at the campsite and you can't get power from your power outlets, come into here, press the reset button, and you'll probably find everything goes back to normal. Here at the RV toilet, anytime you're using your RV sewer system, you'll want to use a good potent RV toilet chemical. Chemical comes in liquid, tablet, or powder forms. We sell all three in our parts and accessories department. When you go to put new toilet chemical into the tank, pour a package of chemical into the tank or into the bowl, push halfway down on the foot pedal to fill the bowl with water, and then dump the whole works into the tank. It's important to note that the toilet chemical needs a little bit of water to activate it, so always put some water down into the tank with the chemical. You'll want to put new chemical into your holding tank after every time you dump your tanks. So once you finish dumping your black holding tank, come in the trailer, put a new charge of toilet chemical in, and you should be good to go until the next time you dump your holding tanks. Over here in the kitchen, you've got a 2-burner stovetop. You'll light this with just a normal barbecue lighter. Turn the burners over to high and light them with the barbecue lighter. This is also a good place to bleed the air off your propane system every time you switch propane bottles. So when you put a new bottle on the front of the trailer, there may be some air in the propane lines. If you use these burners to bleed the air off, once you can light both of these burners, you know you'll have no problem lighting your fridge, furnace, and hot water tank. For the fridge, it's an automatic gas electric fridge. So if we turn it to the on position and select automatic, when it's running in automatic, it will always try first to run on AC or 110 volt power. If it doesn't have power available, it'll sense that and it'll automatically switch over to run on gas. You can override the automatic to only run on electricity or only run on gas. Not a lot of situations where you might want to do that, but you may want to run the fridge on gas even when you're plugged into electricity, because you may find that the fridge cools a little faster on gas than it does on electricity. But having said that, it still takes several hours to cool an RV fridge down. So we recommend getting the fridge running the day before you load up the trailer so that everything's nice and cold when you load your food into the trailer. Your microwave is a microwave convection oven combo. This works on electricity only, so you need to be plugged into 110 volt power for this to work. It'll work as a normal microwave, or if you press the convec button, you can set the temperature in the oven and use it just like you would an electric convection oven. So you need 110 volt power for that, and for your TV, and for your power outlets. Those are the three things that you'll need to be plugged in to operate. Here up on the roof is a power vent fan. So you can press the open button to open the lid. You've got 4 different speeds for your fan. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And a fan off button there. The fan also has a rain sensor on it, so if you've got the lid open and it senses some moisture, it'll automatically shut off the fan and close the lid. Right down here at floor level is your propane leak detector. So this is a combination propane and carbon monoxide alarm. So it'll actually do 3 things. It'll alert you to the possibility of a propane leak. If that's the case though, it's most likely that you would smell the propane before the alarm goes off. It could also alert you to a potential carbon monoxide situation. But the third and most common thing that will alert you to is a low voltage situation with your RV battery. This is wired into the RV's 12-volt electrical system, and just like a smoke detector chirps when its battery is getting low, this will do the same if your RV battery is getting low. Speaking of your smoke detector, it's located right here near the entry door, and it is not wired into the trailer's 12-volt electrical system. It has its own battery. So you'll want to check this 9-volt battery periodically as part of your regular maintenance. You can test it just by pressing and holding the test button and hearing a beep. So I think that pretty much covers it for the 2018 KZ Escape Mini 181 KS. I hope you've learned something. You can always get a hold of us here at Trailblazer if you have any questions, or visit our website, trailblazerrv.com. Thank you.